So we're rounding up government intervention. We talked about maximum prices, we talked about minimum prices, we talked about indirect taxes and subsidies. There are other ways government could intervene in the market whenever there is market failure. We have the first one here. Another one is regulation. When I talk about regulations, regulation simply means passing laws, rules that we cannot bypass. So no one is above the law. So if government wants to try to enforce certain laws or certain regulations, certain situation that warrants them to intervene in the market, they will come up with laws, because no one is always going to be above the law. So regulations are ways in which government would intervene in the market. So it is written and it has to be complied with. That means there's always going to be compliance when it comes to regulations. Do you understand? So for regulations, government uses it to correct market failure, because every individual in that country, all economic agents in that country must comply with it. So no one is always above it, and no one is excluded from regulations. Do we understand regulation here? So regulation simply means government is trying to use certain laws to ensure that there is compliance to correct market failure. So I wrote anyway, regulation. Government uses regulation to correct market failure, as this involves laws which are difficult for economic agents to boycott. You cannot bypass it. In as much as you are part of the country, you would not be able to bypass it. That's the same as boycott. They are easy to understand and relatively cheap to enforce. When government passes law, they have law enforcement agents that would ensure that there's compliance. So no one is going to be able to bypass it. Do we understand regulations? Any question about regulations? However, what is the problem about regulation? Government might not understand the right level of regulation. So it might be too tight or too loose. Government parastatals are not economists. They are not business people. They are politicians. So they might not understand the level of regulations they need to put into place. So that means if they don't understand the level of regulation that they need to put in place, it might be too tight. That means too strict or too loose. And if it is too loose, it means it's not going to change, it's not going to have any impact. Hello? What are you doing? If it is too tight, it means it's become so strict. Firms or businesses might leave the country. Oh, the laws of this country is too difficult for us to comply with. We're going to leave because it's too tight. And if it is too loose, it means it's not going to have any impact. It's not going to change or correct market failure. Do you understand the point I'm making here? There's government intervention, which is regulation. So the problem about regulation is that government might not understand or know the level of regulation it has to use to correct the market failure. So if government doesn't know that, then it might be too tight or too loose. Too tight becomes stricter that a lot of firms would have to leave the country, or too loose that does not have any impact. So too tight or too loose is a government failure. We are trying to correct a market failure, but it has led to government failure. Do we understand? The next lesson is going to be government failure. You understand more about what I'm saying now. Another point about regulation is that regulation does not discriminate. So it means no one is above it. As a result of that, it does not put into consideration the cost and the externalities of that action. The cost in terms of the private cost to the firm and externalities to the society. So because it's regulation, it doesn't put into consideration anyone. So government has passed this law and everybody has to comply. So it does not discriminate anyone. So some firms will be producing goods that bring about positive externalities. The regulation will still affect them. Firms that produces goods that brings about negative externalities, the same level of regulation will affect both of them. That is the point I'm making. Do we understand or not? Because it's about laws, no one is above the law. So